Welcome to the Endo Belly Girl podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Chavez. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner and restorative wellness practitioner on a mission to change the way that we support women with endometriosis. Endo is a full-body disease that impacts your mind, body, and spirit in countless ways that aren't often addressed the way that women truly deserve. We are here to talk about all of it. Please keep in mind that the content of this show has been created for educational purposes only and should never be used as a replacement for medical diagnosis or treatment. Hey, my friend, and welcome back to the Endo Belly Girl podcast. Have you ever noticed that your pain gets worse when you're feeling stressed out or just spiraling in frustration? That's actually not a coincidence. Today, we're going to take a look at how your body and your brain are deeply connected and how breaking the pain and stress cycle isn't just about what you eat, but how you think and you feel as well. If you've ever felt like your pain controls you, this episode is for you. Now, I don't want to imply here that all you need to do is stop stressing out and all of your problems and all of your pain will go away. It's not that simple, and I don't want to oversimplify this rather complex disease that you have. However, there is absolutely a connection between your brain and your body, and so it's one piece of the puzzle that we can work on as endo warriors to help to support ourselves. And so I just wanted to share this as another tool that you can add to your tool belt to help you as an endo warrior to feel a little more hopeful and a little more empowered to be able to take your health into your own hands, because I just think that is the most powerful thing in the world. So, first of all, I just wanted to share a little story, a personal story about this. So when I was working a while back, this was actually years ago. At the time, I was a full-time classical ballet instructor. That's what I did for many years. So for those of you who don't know, I was a professional classical ballet dancer. That was my first career, and then got into teaching and now have completely transitioned into being a functional nutritionist. So it's been a little bit of a, crazy journey of life here. But this was during the years that I was teaching, and, my endo symptoms during that time had really flared up. That's kind of when I first received my diagnosis and went through all of that. So I remember one particular day where I was actually feeling pretty good at the beginning of the day, but this was a day when we had, I think it was not even an actual performance day, but a dress rehearsal day. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the theater, that is usually in the days immediately leading up to the performance, you do some rehearsals where you're on stage with all the costumes and the lights and everything, just no audience. And it gives you a chance to make sure everything is running smoothly before you actually bring in an audience for the show. And for the people running the show, it is probably the most stressful day, because for us, that meant loading everything, all of our sets and costumes and everything from the studio to the theater, and setting everything up and making sure all of our 100+ students that were in the show were organized, and the parent volunteers. There's just a lot of moving pieces. Anyway, I don't need to go too in depth on that story. The point was, it was a very stressful day. I was kind of at my wit's end. There were some things going sideways on us, and I was just really feeling it and just under a lot of stress. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I started experiencing a lot of pain. Now, at the time, this was prior to my endo surgery, so I still had a large endometrioma on my right ovary. And that it ended up being about 9 centimeters when they removed it. So this was a little bit before, then it might not have been quite that big, but it was up there for sure. And it hadn't been bothering me in the morning, but by afternoon or whatever time it got so incredibly painful that I actually just kind of stopped and just started crying, because all of a sudden I couldn't walk, I couldn't move, and it felt like this just kind of hit out of nowhere. And this may be a familiar story for you. I know I've heard this from many endo warriors before, where sometimes the pain just comes up out of nowhere. I wasn't on my period, which is typically when I had experienced the most pain. I don't believe I was even around ovulation. It was just a day. And what I did is I ended up taking a little break because I didn't have much of a choice anyway. I went out to my car and just sat down for a second. And all I did is I just closed my eyes and I kind of calmed myself down and I took some deep breaths and just reminded myself that I was safe and everything is okay and it's all good. And I really just kind of calmed my nervous system. And the crazy thing is I felt calmer, but also that physical pain decreased by probably 90% during that time, to the point where it was just like a dull ache by the time I went back into the theater. And I just wanted to share that story because not to say that all you need to do is take some deep breaths and all of your pain will go away. But in that moment, I kind of thought, this pain doesn't seem to be coming up for any reason other than the fact that I'm really stressed out right now. So let me remove the stress or bring myself into a calmer state and see what happens. And sure enough, the pain really settled down. So like I said, it's a tool in your tool belt. So certainly something that you can try. I've had other moments too where even days when I had really bad periods, nowadays my periods tend to be either completely pain-free or sometimes I'll have minimal pain. Of course, I'm still human, so I have some shifts and changes happening in my body just like the rest of you. But back in the day, my periods were all extremely painful, like debilitatingly painful every single time. And doing the nervous system work, I did find to be actually helpful even during those really bad days. What I would do is I would put on, I've talked about this before on the podcast, I would put on, there's plenty of resources of this on YouTube where people have even sound frequencies for pain that just the sound frequencies themselves are supposed to be really helpful for pain, and at the same time is just very calming and soothing. So I would put on one of those videos and I would just lie in bed or on my couch and just try to breathe really deep and help my body to relax and my nervous system to relax. And it may not have at that point in time helped my pain to go away completely when I was in that immense amount of pain and I was in the middle of my period, but it did help. It definitely did bring it down a few notches, which sometimes just that is super powerful. And then I also wanted to share a story. So it's not just me. I have a client who I'm working with, and she actually came to me saying that she had been really, really struggling with pain and had even been working with her doctor with some pain management drugs, some pain medication. And of course, hey, if that's what you need, that's what you need, right? And so she had been working with her doctor and had been really frustrated just having all this pain. We'd been starting to work on the nutrition side of things and lifestyle and working on her gut health and all of this as well. But the biggest thing that really moved the needle for her, she came to me one day and said, hey, just wanted to let you know I'm completely off of my pain meds. And I was like, what? That's a huge turnaround. This was just a few weeks after she had been having a lot of pain. So I talked to her about what was going on, and it turned out, she goes, the biggest change that I've made lately is just working on my mindset. She goes, I just couldn't live the way that I was living. And so I just had to make some changes and was just really working on that, just calming down her nervous system and reframing her mindset and all the things, and ended up being able to completely come off of pain medication, which I think is an incredible story. And I'm so thankful that she shared that with me. So hopefully that leads to some inspiration for you on your journey. Now, I first wanted to, you guys know I love my myths versus truths because I think that that's just so important to be aware of. Myth number 1 is that pain is purely physical. The truth behind that is that pain is really influenced by both physical and mental, emotional inputs. So your brain helps to interpret pain signals, and your stress or mindset can definitely turn the volume up or down when it comes to pain. We're going to dig into that a little bit. Myth number 2, if you're doing everything quote unquote right and still have pain, you're just not trying hard enough. I hate this one. Promise you it's not you. The truth is there's no shame in flares, and mindset really isn't about blame. It's about reclaiming your power and shifting how your nervous system responds. Myth number 3, mindset work is just positive thinking. The truth, mindset work is really about retraining your brain and your body to feel safe, supported, and calm so that you can reduce your pain at its source. So all things that I think are really powerful to understand. I know there are probably many of you out there listening to this who are nodding your heads and going, oh yes, I've really seen the power of my mind and the power of my emotions and how they influence my physical body. Or maybe you're listening to this and this is really the first time that you've heard this information and you're going, oh, Alyssa, I think you're slightly crazy. Whatever you're thinking, that's okay. You do you. But I encourage you either way to keep on listening because I am going to go through some actual studies that have been done. It turns out there was actually a ton of research done around the connection between stress and disease and pain. And so I'm going to unpack some of that. But first of all, I just wanted to give a quick overview of the pain-stress cycle. So it's one of these things that it really goes back and forth because when you're in pain, that pain can cause you to feel stress because you're in pain. And then that stress that you're experiencing causes more tension in your bodies. We all know that when we're stressed, we tense our bodies, right? You hold your shoulders up by your ears, you grip in your belly, you scrunch your eyebrows together, you clench your jaw, right? We tense our bodies. And that tension can then end up contributing to more pain. And that just becomes kind of this vicious cycle. And that's super common, especially in chronic conditions like endometriosis, where chronic pain and chronic inflammation is a big thing. And so I think that that's just important to be aware of. So what we're really working on here today and talking about is just A, how that impacts your body, and B, how you can help to support that. I'll give you a hint. It's simpler than you think. Stay tuned through the end of this episode where we're going to talk about some actual actionable strategies that you can take with you. And I'm going to break it down and make it as simple as possible. Now, I do think it's important also to understand a little bit about how your nervous system works. So we're not going to go into a whole sciencey lesson on your nervous system. That's not the purpose of today's episode. But what I want you to understand is just basically that there's two forms of your nervous system, two sides of your nervous system. So your nervous system can either be in a sympathetic or a parasympathetic state, right? So that sympathetic state is like your fight or flight response, right? Kind of the revved up, ready to go, ready to take on the world or fight the world. And the parasympathetic state is that calm state. We've talked about this a little bit before because that piece is really important when it comes to your digestion. We talked about the whole rest to digest thing, how you want your body to be in that calm, parasympathetic state when you eat so that you're actually allowing your body to digest your food. So the nervous system can really impact the health of your gut and your digestive symptoms as well. And so I just want you to be aware of that. And the cool thing is that we do have some control over which state that we're in based on just what you're doing and the signals that you're sending your body. Right? And reminding our bodies that we are safe. It's okay to calm down. We're thinking about the signals that you're sending. So I talked about that pain-stress loop, that cycle, right? How pain can cause stress, stress can cause tension, tension can cause more pain, and how that just becomes kind of that vicious cycle. So some of these signs that you might be stuck in that pain-stress loop can be things like racing thoughts around your pain. I know I've been here before. What if it never goes away? What if I'm stuck like this forever? What if I'm always in pain? What if this gets worse? What if it's something more than just endo? What if I'm dying? We have those very dramatic thoughts that could come up. I know these thoughts only because I've had all of them, right? So those racing thoughts. Feeling like your body is working against you, like your body is fighting you, is definitely a big piece of that pain-stress loop. Avoiding things that you love out of fear of flaring up. That's a big thing. I'm really big into yoga. In case you hadn't noticed that about me before, I've talked about it on the podcast. I actually teach live yoga classes within my membership, the Endo Wellness Initiative, which of course, if you'd like to join in on those live yoga classes, hop in there. You can find the link in the show notes. And I stopped doing yoga maybe not completely stopped, but heavily cut back. I kind of was doing just very basic, gentle movement, which was fine. and had just really pulled back from what I used to do because I was afraid of what that was going to end up doing to my body. Same thing with hiking. I used to really love hiking, and I totally pulled back on that because I was just afraid that this physical movement was going to cause flaring. So if that sounds like you might also be caught in that pain stress loop. Or maybe you're just feeling exhausted even when you feel like you're doing all the right things, right? It's kind of that perfectionist mindset too of like, I'm doing all the things and I'm still in pain. There must be something wrong with me. My body just must be broken. And all of that is just part of that pain stress loop. So if this all sounds like you, then keep on listening here. Stay with me, my friend. So first of all, I wanted to go through a few different studies. So I did some digging. I love me some PubMed. That's like the go-to place if you want the actual research that's out there, not just some random source from the internet, but this is actually where the research lives. And so I found actually a lot, but I picked out a few that I wanted to share with you that I think are just most relevant to this conversation today. So the first one is from a paper from 2012. This was actually a study done on rats, not humans. So I do want to point that out. Animals are, of course, a little bit different than humans. So it's not a perfect study, but it does give us some information. And so the name of the paper was Stress Exacerbates Endometriosis Manifestations and Inflammatory Parameters in an Animal Model. And so basically the gist of it is that the rats were put under stress, or a certain subset of the rats in the study were put under a lot of stress, and found that stress, basically the conclusion was that the rats that were put under stress had more increased release of inflammatory mediators, increased colonic inflammation, that would be inflammation in your colon, increased motility, increased number of mast cells. So we were seeing a lot of changes in the physical body, and the only difference in the way that the control group and the study group, I don't think I'm saying that quite right, but you know what I mean, were the only difference is that one group was put under stress and one was not. And all these changes happened within the physical body. The way that I like to think of it too is that your physical body listens to your brain. It listens to your thoughts. It listens to what's happening in your nervous system and responds accordingly, right? Because your body responds to signals, right? Your physical body responds to signals, and those signals can come in from different ways. So I thought that was an interesting study. The next one I wanted to share is from 2022. The paper is titled The Link Between Stress and Endometriosis from Animal Models to the Clinical Scenario. And so this one really looked at both animal and human models. And this is actually, I'm just going to read a direct quote from the article based on the conclusion from this study that said, there is strong evidence from humans and animal models showing that abnormal functioning of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, the HPA axis, which is basically what controls our stress response, and or the inflammatory response system, disrupts feedback regulation of both neuroendocrine and immune systems, contributing to the disease. Stress is known to affect the physiology of pelvic organs and to disturb the HPA axis, leading to chronic, painful, inflammatory disorders. So these are the conclusions that scientists are coming to as they're studying the connection between stress and endo. And then the last one that I wanted to share for today is a 2015 paper also on PubMed called Pain in Times of Stress. So this one's not directly about endometriosis, but just about the impacts of stress on pain. And what that study said is that stress modulates pain perception, resulting in either stress-induced analgesia or stress-induced hyperalgesia, as reported in both animal and human studies. And by the way, I don't know if I'm pronouncing these terms correctly, so bear with me if I'm not. I am not myself a researcher and a scientist. I am simply sharing the information, but I do have the definitions of those terms in case you are unclear on those, because I'll be honest and say that I wasn't. I had to Google these words. That's okay. Analgesia is the inability to feel pain. So some people, when they're experiencing stress, will experience an inability to feel pain, which sounds amazing, I think, to most endo warriors. And for me, when I heard that, I was thinking more about situations where someone's been through an acute trauma. We've all heard these situations. Maybe they broke a leg or something like that, but they're through all of the cortisol and adrenaline pumping through their bodies. They didn't feel it immediately. They didn't really experience any of the pain immediately from that. So I know that's a fairly common phenomenon. I haven't heard of that being as common with endo. I think it's mostly the opposite, which is hyperanalgesia. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Which is an abnormally increased sensitivity to pain, where even non-painful stimuli can feel painful, or a painful stimulus feels significantly more intense. I feel like that's probably the thing that comes up more with endo, at least from my personal experience and what I've heard from others who experience a lot of pain with endo. And so that's where the stress piece can be part of it, the nervous system regulation, because the as was said in the beginning of that quote, that stress modulates pain perception. So if you're somebody, because that can be a thing particularly, I know, with your intestines, because one thing that can be really painful with endo is basically your internal organs, your intestines. They don't love being touched in general. And so when there's a release of, hot blood inside of your body and it's touching those organs that shouldn't be in contact with stuff, it can be, they're very sensitive. It can be very painful. And what happens is that once your body's experienced that pain and it's kind of looking out for that, it can become kind of more sensitive. So the way that I think of it too is, this is the example that came to mind for me. I recall as a kid, my mom would on occasions curl my hair with a curling iron, and love my mom to death, but she wasn't fantastic at that. And I remember several incidents where my ears got burned, like the tips of my ears would get burned with the curling iron. She would just bump it by accident and, and it hurt. And so now I find myself whenever, even as an adult now, whenever, less so when I'm curling my hair because I know I'm in control of it, but if I'm, getting my hair done and someone's curling my hair, I find myself being very kind of tense and wanting to pull away from the pain just because of the memory of it, even though it hasn't actually touched my ear. Just feeling like the heat near my ear is enough to kind of make me go, and freak out a little bit. And our physical bodies absolutely do that, right? We've had past traumas. We've had a lot of pain in the past, and so it can require a little bit of reprogramming, retraining the nervous system to help to reduce that sensitivity to pain. And it's probably not like an immediate, who knows? I can't speak for everybody, but it's less likely to be an immediate response of you take a few deep breaths and now your body's not as sensitive to pain. It can be a longer term project to work on, just constantly sending new signals to your nervous system that you're safe, everything's okay. So this was the conclusion, by the way, from that particular paper. It just said basically that stress itself is subjective, with different emotions contributing to its manifestations, often with conflicting effects on pain perception, as evidenced by the analgesic and hyperalgesic responses. I'm just laughing because I have no idea if I'm pronouncing those words correctly. Maybe I should have Googled that first, but that's okay. The stress system does not function alone. The genetic and psychological makeup of a person, experience, and environmental factors all contribute to the response to pain. So that's what I was saying earlier, that it's not just about the stress system. This is not the one thing that will fix it all, but it's the combination of all of it. Your genetics, your psychological makeup, your experience, environmental factors, which can include your diet, your chemicals that you have exposure to, heavy metals, just all the different things that can impact our bodies can all contribute to that response to pain. So multifactorial, more complex than just, hey, you need to take a few deep breaths, although that can still help. Hopefully that makes sense. So these are my conclusions from all of this, from digging into the research. I totally just spent my whole morning digging into the research, and what I've come out of that with is the understanding that stress impacts all of us differently. So this is not like a one size fits all, here's what to do kind of thing, but it does definitely impact our physical bodies, our perception of pain, and how pain affects us. I also have come to the conclusion that supporting stress can be a key way to help to support pain and other physical symptoms associated with endo as well. Even the gut-related symptoms that you might be experiencing, your fatigue. I mean, so many pieces can be affected. So again, is it everything? No, but it sure is a step in the right direction and can be a piece of the healing puzzle. So I wanted to also share, I shared a little bit of a story that was kind of a single moment story that I shared earlier. This story that I'm going to share is a little bit more kind of over the longer term. But basically, I lately, just fairly recently, over the past 6 months or so especially, have been going through some life stuff that's been pretty stressful. There's been a lot of stress in the household. There's been a lot of stress, mental stress, stuff keeping me up at night, a lot of stuff going on. And I found that all of that was starting to really manifest in my body. So I had been at a point where I was doing really, really well. I was feeling great physically. I had energy and, minimal to no pain. Things were going really well. And then all of a sudden I started getting, most of this is unrelated to endo, but I started experiencing things like headaches, which I used to get headaches all the time. And ever since I started really digging into all this nutrition world and everything, have little to no headaches. But I started getting headaches again. I started getting back pain. I started getting hip pain. I started having more breakouts. I started having a little bit of digestive issues that I haven't had in a while. I started having even a little bit of a flare-up of pelvic pain. So a lot of, nothing major, but just a lot of little things popping up in my body. And I ended up making a decision recently to find a way to remove myself from at least a good portion of this stressful situation, and also to just work on my stress management techniques a little bit more in my life, to really prioritize that. Because I, like so many of you, have a lot going on in life and don't always prioritize taking care of myself. And so I decided I needed to flip that, and I needed to get back into my self-care routines, like meditating in the mornings and, making time in my day to get to a yoga class, and some of these, taking walks with my dogs, just some of these things that really help to calm my nervous system and help me feel good in my body. So it was a combination of that. I turned down the faucet, maybe not completely off. I will not say, oh, my life is just stress-free now. But I had some talks with my husband, and we were able to work out some ways to help to really reduce the stress load going on, really for both of us, not just for me. It's not like, oh, I'm going to dump all this on you and have fun. But I really worked on just how to reduce the amount of stress on us. And all of a sudden, this is just in the last few weeks, like this is all pretty recent, which is why it's top of mind for me. All of a sudden, my headaches are gone. My back and my hip pain is gone. My skin is clearing up. My digestion has been better. I haven't had any pain popping up. All of these things have shifted and changed. And I just really believe in the power of all of that work. So the part you really came for today, actionable, did that make sense? Actionable strategies. We're going to run with that to help to support your nervous system and to help to break that pain and stress cycle. One of my very favorite things that's super simple to do is breath work. I like it because it's free. You can do it anywhere. It's very simple to learn. It's not some complex technique, and it's very effective at calming your nervous system. So we're going to even try this together right now. Just a few. We're going to take 3 breaths together. I won't do too many because this is a podcast and you probably don't want to just listen to me breathe, but we're going to just try a few together. Now, I encourage you to close your eyes when you're doing breath work. However, if you are, driving or walking right now, that might be a little challenging. If it's possible for you to maybe park for a second or just stop moving for a second. If you're walking, great. If not, just breathe with your eyes open so that you don't, crash. So that's my little disclaimer. If you are in a place where you can just sit down for a second, I encourage you to take just 2 minutes out of your day here to calm your nervous system a little bit along with me. It'll be fun to do it together, right? Teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work here, girl. So what we're going to do today is one of my favorites. It's just a very simple extended length exhale. Extending the exhale just a little bit longer than your inhale actually helps to calm the nervous system a little bit more. So close your eyes if you are able to. And all we're going to do is inhale for 4 counts. And then exhale for 6. Inhale for 4 counts, breathing in through your nose. Let that breath expand deep into your belly. And exhale through your nose for 6 counts. One more time. Inhale, fill your belly with that breath, 4 counts. Exhale, count all the way to 6. And just find a little softness. Open your eyes. Check out how you feel. I was doing that right along with you, and I already feel just a little bit calmer. Now, it may require a little bit more than that to really calm the nervous system. If you want more like that, shoot me a message on Instagram. DM me at endobellygirl and just say, hey, I'd like to learn some more breath work. And I have a couple of things that I've recorded, so I can send you a free calming breathwork practice that I have recorded. I'm happy to share that with you. Just shoot me a DM on Instagram at endobellygirl, and I'm happy to share that. So breathwork, that's one strategy. It's not the only thing, but it is a super powerful one. And see how easy that was? Even if you are just pausing to take a few deep breaths, multiple times throughout your day, can be super powerful. The other strategy that I really like is gentle movement in some capacity, taking a walk, doing some yoga, or whatever makes you happy. A lot of people really like dancing. Put on some music, dance around your living room. Doesn't have to be anything particular. It's more about what works best for you and helps you to feel calmer and just kind of revving down the nervous system a little bit. Meditation, of course, is a wonderful strategy. If you haven't meditated before, I really like using the app Insight Timer. I found that to be a really great resource. I use it myself, and I've recommended it to clients who seem to really enjoy it. That can definitely be a good strategy. If you haven't meditated before, hop on that app. It's free, by the way. They have like anything a pro version, but you can use it for free. And just find a 5-minute guided meditation to start with, right? So that way it just makes it super simple. Yes, you can fit 5 minutes into your day. I know you can. Give it a try. Journaling can be really helpful for some people. It's not something that I actually personally do a whole lot of. I do it now and again. Sometimes I go through bursts in my life where I'm loving journaling, and then long periods of time where I don't. I'm kind of up and down with that. But I know some people who just love journaling and it really helps them. So this is really about finding the strategies that work best for you, not just what works best for me. So I wanted to share multiple strategies here. Time with friends and loved ones can be really powerful as well. Taking conscious time to just be together and laugh and have fun. Time with pets, too. I know I feel this. I have 2 dogs, 2 French bulldogs, who are, the loves of my life, besides, of course, my husband, if you're listening to this. And snuggling with them and petting them just feels so calming to me. That's pretty much our nightly routine. We all snuggle up on the couch. I have 2 Frenchies on my lap, and I just pet them. And it's just a great moment for all of us. So those are some of those strategies that you can try. Again, if you need support with this stuff and just how to get going, feel free to reach out to me. And also, I think just some of the mindset reframing is super helpful. So for example, I know something that I used to say all the time, both out loud and to myself, are words like, my body is broken. Well, that doesn't feel great to say because it makes it feel like it's a permanent situation and there's nothing I can do about it, and poor me. Instead, the reframe that I encourage you to use is, my body is trying to protect me. When your body is showing you symptoms. It's showing you that there's imbalances in your body, and it's finding ways to help to support you as best it can given its current circumstances, its current environment. And so what I like to do instead is just thank my body for trying to protect me and also letting it know that it's safe, right? Just reminding yourself, I'm safe. I have everything that I need. I am okay. I am safe, right? Some of those things can be really, really powerful. And the other thing that I like to think of is just imagine that my body is like a small child that I'm caring for. So imagine if a 4-year-old child came to you and said that they were hurting or in pain or struggling in some capacity. You're not going to look at them and just get upset and roll your eyes that they're hurting. You're going to hold them in your arms and snuggle them and love on them and give them encouraging words and help to calm them down. And what if we looked at our own bodies that way as well? Instead of getting angry and upset and frustrated, what if we thought of our bodies as just young children who need to be cared for? And I think that I know for me, it was a really powerful shift. So just wanted to share some of those strategies that I have found to be really powerful. All right, my friend, just remember, you deserve to feel safe in your body again. You are safe in your body. If this episode really resonated with you, definitely try one of the mindset or nervous system tools we talked about today and let me know how it goes. It's all about finding what works best for you and your unique body. All right, my friend, have the most wonderful day and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much for joining me today, my friend. If you loved what you heard, be sure to share with a friend and subscribe so that you can keep coming back for more. If you are ready to take the next step towards getting to the root cause of your endo symptoms like endo belly, pain, fatigue, and so much more, you need to download my free ultimate guide to building your own endometriosis diet. You can find the link in the show notes or at www.endobellygirl.com. Until next time, my friend.